the Prime Minister brought back down the numbers to 10 people in public gatherings, right? Because of the new set of cases. Is a gathering home at your private place considered a public gathering?
No.
So let's just say you have a quote-unquote family line, as you're saying just now with Trinidadians, you know. You have a family line and it have 10 or 20 or there. In a family line, no admission to come in, you better be a barbecuing or whatever it may be.
The application of the law. In England, the way they look at it is if you are a resident in the house, that doesn't infringe the law because you live there.
Right.
So you're a large family.
But we're talking about a large family. We're talking about you invite.
You're a large family, and all told, there may be 10, 15 of you there. You cannot argue that that's an infraction of the law.
Right.
When they use the term public, your residence is not a public place. But what you must understand is that in certain circumstances, the law looks at public in terms of access. If you can gain entry, again, you don't have to pay money to get in, that it is just a simple state where one can just present themselves and, gain entry so that the public have access. That's where you may find yourself in difficulty.
Oh.
So yes, you may decide in your infinite wisdom you want to have your line and it's only family that's coming. But when you look at interpretation of statute, you have the literal mischief and golden rules. And those are just means of interpretation. Now, the golden rule really, or the mischief rather, is where they look at what is it that Parliament, the mischief, so to speak, that Parliament is trying to stop. And in this instance, the mischief is to prevent more than 10 people coming together. So you may find yourself... Now, the thing about a lot of this legislation is that, yes, COVID has been here since, in Trinidad that is, since March.
Yeah.
But that's really not enough time for the development of statute. Normally statute goes through this process where it's on the books and then it's subject to amendments and then it's, it's ratification, there might be more amendments. And so it goes through a whole process. You might look at the life of any particular parliament and they might bring in, especially if it's controversial, it might take the life of that parliament literally to bring it in as it's up and down, up and down. Now, a lot of legislation that they're bringing in under the COVID, it's actually more type of like state of emergency stuff. It's emergency types of endeavours. And in those circumstances, there's no presumption that it's going to be implemented for any great length of time. And in those circumstances, it's not subject to the scrutinies, but it's to target a particular mischief. So I would not encourage John Brown to have his family line in this current climate because he may find himself in difficulty.
So, but okay,
But I've got to tell you, remember, a lot of this, although you have a lot of people before the court for the breach of the COVID, I actually haven't done any trials yet. There have been no trials as it relates to it. There have been some people that have come and pleaded guilty, and those matters that I'm aware of, they've just handed out fines to those people. But remember this, a fine for a breach of the COVID is a conviction. Trinidad does not have a Rehabilitation of Offenders Act. So you, until or unless you petition for a presidential pardon, and I won't trouble you with that, it suffices to say, you have a stain on your character for life. It is a criminal conviction. So you gathering at Uncle Joe because it's his birthday, potentially will be criminalized. And going back to the point that I made earlier, you now become part of Joe's public criminal element because you have a criminal record.
Wow. Wow. No, so in a case like that, let's just say everybody's inside of a house and the police find out some neighbor call and neighbor say there are more than 10 people there.
Yeah, police will storm in there, raid the place.
But would they have legal rights to storm in? Or?
At some stage, they will either produce a warrant or argue that they had reasonable suspicion that some criminal activity was taking place. I've just finished telling you that a COVID conviction is a criminal conviction. So if there's more than 10 of you gathered there, is that not a criminal activity?
Yes, it is. Right, yeah.
Is that not giving the police reasonable grounds for then storming the place and dragging people out shackled?
So
You can argue that you're living there. Okay, when you produce your driver's permit, will it have that address on it? Are you not then gathering? The question really is, can you argue legitimately that it's a public venue, a public place?
right. Which is where people would have to go.
Those people who were recently arrested down in Sowell, that place wasn't functioning as in open at that time. It was closed.
Right.
So it was a private endeavor. They're all before the court. I told you that we haven't done any trials yet. I'm not aware of any of my colleagues that have done trials in this. So we're yet to see how the state really
Gonna treat.
will treat with these matters, and indeed what the court's approach will be.
So in the meantime, just don't chance it.
My advice to you is, as I've told you, there's certain sections of society that the police leave to do whatever they want to do, and everyone else is subject to the law. So ask yourself, you feel like being a criminal today?